You're watching the Fantasy Rankings Report only on FantasyNow Plus.
Hello, and welcome to the Fantasy Rankings Report. My name is Christopher Kurt, but you can call me Topher. On this show, we compare running back and wide receiver rankings from multiple different websites and see what the consensus is. Are we seeing some big gaps? Are we seeing a lot of consistency? And I can't do that without my co-host, Michael Flores. Michael, how are you doing today?
Doing well. How you doing, Topher?
Not too bad. I go back to school tomorrow. I'm a teacher, and so it's been getting things ready, prepared, and I could always use one more day, but I didn't use my summer. So
summer is yours.
Yes, and the couch. We were very friendly to each other.
Love that relationship for you.
Right? Thank you. I appreciate that. So on this show, I'm the wide receiver expert. Michael is the running back expert. So we've gone through, looked at all these rankings, seen the differences, and decided to dive into a few guys that we want to talk about within each classification, each tier. And we're going to get to that very soon. I first want to mention that the show is brought to you by FantasyNow Plus. Check out our website, check out other podcasts, other recordings, links below, above, in your mailbox. Not really, but that felt very 1990 of me. And the Fins Talk Sports Network. And to subscribe to both channels, as Michael pointed below, sign up for Drafters, the new app Drafters, for 100% deposit match up to $100 using code FN+. Michael, do you want to send me $100 so then I can make another extra $100?
Yeah, let's start. Why not? We'll put it towards the teacher fund.
Yes, there we go. Gambling for the teachers. That should be the new thing. Scott Fishbowl, but for gambling for teachers. Let's do it. Okay. Each day we start off with a rankings question of the day. In this segment, Topher and Michael will ask each other questions about rankings in any way, shape, or form. We can stick to our area of expertise or talk about a different position. Today, Michael has the floor. Go for it, buddy.
Awesome. Thank you. So, had a bunch of rookies that performed last year, but everybody always hears about sophomore slumps. You have a good rookie year, down second year. So, I got 5 guys who are sophomores this year, and I'm going to give you what they finished as.
5 guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just a bag of fries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to give you where they finished in their respective positions, and you let me know whether or not you're going to think they're going to finish higher or lower ranking than they did last year. All right. So first up, we got Ashton Jainsey. He finished as RB11 last year. Do you think he finishes higher or lower than that?
I think he finishes higher. I think that he's being drafted a little higher than that, and I think that's about where he's probably gonna be. I think that there's some reasonability to why he's being drafted higher. He didn't feel like a running back 1 last year, even though he kind of was one. But I hope this year that it feels more like it. So I say above.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. That line can't really get worse, so I'm assuming that he's gonna finish better. No. So we'll see.
Yes.
All right, I got one more running back for you. That's Travion Henderson. He finished RB21 last year.
So something interesting about Travion Henderson is up until week 9 last year, he only had 2 games above 12. Hold on. That was in full PPR. Sorry. He didn't have a single game. Oh, sorry. 1 game at 11 points or higher. After week 10, he had 1, 2, 3, 4 games. 4 of his 8 games where he was above 17 points. So he broke out in later half of the season, just like rookies do, finished as RB21. I think that goes higher because of his big game capability. He is also going to have some slumps amongst that, but overall, he'll finish higher than 21.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I had him last year in my work league, and I kind of traded him a little too early because I was heavy on running backs, and he took the guy that I traded him too far in the playoffs. So I felt it. All right, so next up, we're going to go wide receivers. I love this guy. I know you like this guy a lot. That's Tedero McMillan. He finished wide receiver 16. Where do you think he's going to do that this year?
I'm actually going to talk about Tedero later. So
okay,
I don't think he finishes as wide receiver 16 though, because I think the wide receiver class is just too stout. The wide receivers are just too heavy around him right now. I think he's more of a wide receiver 20. So not a huge fall. Not a huge fall, but I think he's closer to middle wide receiver 2 than lower wide receiver 1, just because of the other people in the league and his quarterback.
yeah, that's a huge one for sure. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next we got Emeka Egbuka, sorry, and that's wide receiver 23.
Oh, this guy to the moon. Yes, his toe injury. Ugh, I don't like it. But I actually put money down between a friend and I that Egbuka will finish as a wide receiver 12 or higher.
Ooh.
And I am pro wide receiver 12 or higher. I think I have him at wide receiver 13 right now because of the injury, or he's at wide receiver 12, one of the two. But he went down from 9 because of the injury, and you don't know if he's going to start off right away. But I think what you saw at the beginning of the season is what you're going to get now if he's healthy and Baker's healthy.
Okay. All right. I like it. I've seen him getting drafted higher than 23rd in a lot of leagues. Again, I was still there too. Where is that injury going to make that big of a difference where he drops that much? But I like it.
Yes.
All right. I got one last one for you. Got another wide receiver. I need to hear your thoughts on this guy. He's not going to be the top guy over there in year 2 for sure, but that's Elic Ayomanor.
Elic Ayomanor is wide receiver 55. It's okay. Wide receiver 55, and I don't think he even touches that. He gets help with all the scrimmage yards he gets because he's a fantastic returner, but that's all he's really going to be on this. No, that was DK, right? That was Chimere. Is that? Yeah, it's Chimere DK that does the returning. So not even Elic Ayomanor is, he might be wide receiver 4 on this team right now.
Wow.
Ridley will be 3. Wandale will be 2. Tate will be 1. I'm not touching him. I'm not going to touch the wide receiver 4 in most offenses, let alone the Titans.
I hear you. All right.
No. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
that's all I got.
He's going way lower.
I like it.
Yes. Okay. I want to show you what we have right here for our rankings. It's pretty legit. So our head boss honcho, Justin, has gone through and made a website, fantasynowplus.com/weekly-rankings. If you look up weekly-rankings at the end of fantasynowplus.com/weekly-rankings, you'll come across what we get to use right here, what we are using. Sorry, I accidentally opened it all up. So you get to see that what websites we're using, the average ranking of all these websites. If you're noticing, websites are across the board. Numbers 1 through 6 are literally all the same. Drake London is wavering from 7 to 8. And then that's where it starts getting crazy. And you start seeing some bigger things like Tedero McMillan. And we use these things to help analyze and give you the best feedback we can. Same thing with our running backs right here. You can see that. Running back 7 has a huge changeup between Chase and Brown, and that's just at running back 7. There's a lot of things that could go with this. Go on with this, and we're very excited and lucky to be able to share that with you. And it's also automated, so we don't have to do as much work because Justin is awesome. So yeah, I do want to talk about our next segment. We have 2 big segments on the show. This first one is called Steady and Safe. It's a part of the show where we each highlight 3 players in our positions of expertise that the consensus agrees upon. So I want to talk about Zay Flowers. He's my first wide receiver. I want to talk about him. He's at wide receiver 15. That's a little low for me. I've got him and Ibuka at 12 and 13 right now. So pretty much the same, but not. He's got a range of 2. So he's literally got this one of the smallest ranges that you can have for this, and there's good reason why. You know, you're hearing great things about Jacoby Lane out of camp in Baltimore, but again, we hear all sorts of hype throughout the offseason and throughout preseason about late round rookie wide receivers. I think he was a 3rd, maybe. So middle round rookie wide receiver. And yes, they're looking for a secondary complement to him. Rashad Bateman wasn't awesome last year, but Zay Flowers is the number 1 locked and loaded. They're not sold on Mark Andrews anymore, which I get because he's old. Zay Flowers is one of your safest wide receiver 2 picks that you can get.
Awesome. Love it. All right. My first guy, I got DeAndre Swift. I know you think he's going higher than he should be. He's at RB20 right now. His range is small, though. He does have a range of 2, so as high as 18. He's as low as 20. Coming off a career high in yards, touchdowns, finished running back 10 or better 5 times last year. I mean, he looked pretty good when he was really on. Biggest concern, though, is getting that ball in the red zone. It was an almost 50-50 split with Monangai. Monangai actually had 1 more carry than Swift in the red zone last year, which it's right there half and half pretty much. So DeAndre Swift, is he going to start losing touches in that red zone? I don't think so, especially right now. Monangai may not be available week 1. He's got a hyperextended knee. So especially right at the beginning, DeAndre Swift, he's safe and steady in the consensus for this right now.
Yeah, and I actually moved DeAndre Swift up my rankings this week because of Monangai's injury to running back 20. So I'm right in line with consensus right there. So there we go. This hurts my Packers heart that we have to talk about 2 Bears back to back, but here we are. It's okay. I'll talk about a Packer later. We're going to talk about Rome Odunze, wide receiver 30. He's got a range of 4. He's seen very steadily as this lower end, middle wide receiver 3. And I think that's a really good place to take him because he could capitalize on what he was at the beginning of last season. He could also kind of be what we saw at the end of the year last year, where Luther Burden and Colson Loveland were taking more points than him. And with those 3 very talented players, who knows? Rome Odunze is the latest one you're getting, but I feel like that floor is safe and that ceiling could be big. So I feel like he's going to be involved. He was the number 9 overall pick a couple years ago. He's going to continue to be involved. So I think Rome Odunze is a great pick.
God, I hope so. But my next guy, I don't really like calling rookies steady and safe because you really don't know that. But the consensus really likes Jadarian Price right around RB25. His range is only 3. His high 23, low 26. Now, he is going to be that starter until Charbonnet is back and fully healthy. But how long is that going to be? So I've seen some reports that say as much as 8 weeks. And if that's the case, then Price has the chance to shine, especially in those first 3 weeks. He's going to face New England first, which New England, fantastic rush defense. They were top 5 most of last year. Top 10. They finished, I think, 6th, 7th. But
Oh,
They faced Arizona. They faced Arizona and Washington week 2, 3, and they're the worst and of the worst last year. I mean, 25th and 30th. They were atrocious. So Price can really get everything early on. After that, I don't know what's going to happen. He could Charbonnet. Who knows? And it could be Price's team now. But the consensus loves him right around RB25.
I like him for the early part of the season. Yes, they spent a first-round draft pick on him, but he has never been a lead back. He's never been that workhorse back, and they're not expecting that from him, I don't think, all season long. They're expecting Charbonnet to come back. Charbonnet has had 20 rushing touchdowns, just rushing touchdowns over the past 2 seasons. They're not gonna stop feeding it to Charbonnet. If that's the kind of guy you have on your team, 20 rushing touchdowns in the past 2 years, yes, you're going to continue to give him the rock. So even if it's between the 20s where he takes over in the red zone and Jadarian Price has to break a big one to score a touchdown, I think Jadarian Price might get more yardage than Charbonnet, but Charbonnet's sweet spot is the red zone. I think that's a really detrimental thing for Jadarian Price. I could be totally wrong, but I think you could also see it as Zach Charbonnet is a 4th-year player this year. They don't re-sign him, just like they didn't re-sign Kenneth Walker. And then truly, this is a Jadarian Price backfield. So that's something to consider, especially for looking dynasty, is
Right.
Don't just think about Charbonnet coming back this year. If Charbonnet doesn't sign with them next year, what do they do? Are they fully in on Price? That's a big scope of things for steady and safe, but just where I was.
Gotta keep it in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. My last steady and safe wide receiver is Chris Godwin. Wide receiver 35. He's got a range of 5. If he can stay healthy, he's going to play well. If he can stay healthy and Baker Mayfield can stay healthy, you're hearing health a lot around Egbuka, Godwin, Baker, Bucky Irving. The Bucks can stay healthy. They will be fantasy juggernauts, just like they were in 2024. And Chris Godwin was what in 2022? They, just like anybody else, if you're healthy, CMC is the biggest example of this. He's healthy. He dominates. I think that Chris Godwin has a chance to do much better than wide receiver 35. But I also don't know how the rest of the team works now that Mike Evans is gone and the feels, the vibes of the team are not spot on right now. And dysfunction within an organization can reflect in the players' production on the field.
I hear you, and I'm going to piggyback off of that because the guy I got at RB37, he's only got a range of 4, so consensus likes him around this area. That's Kenneth Gainwell, and he's now in Tampa, and he's Bucky Irving's backup. Now, he did perform well from week 11 on last year, 6 weeks of 10+ points. It was RB7 in points per game during that time frame. But he's Bucky's backup now is what he is. Let's be honest. And I love Bucky, but I think this is going to see a loss in workload for Bucky. I mean, Kenneth Gainwell is probably going to get a good amount of time. I saw on Twitter that he was starting to get a lot of the passing downs, which Irving was getting a lot of when he was healthy last year. So the upside on Gainwell can be high. Again, like you said, if there's going to be injuries, you don't know if they're going to be healthy. Gainwell can take a lot of that from Bucky if he's not fully ready to go, especially with that shoulder right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at at Kenneth's stats last year. And if you're looking at his stats purely as a runner, they are bad overall. Yeah. He had a really good game with 99 yards rushing. He had a 92-yard rushing game, an 80-yard rushing game. And then everything from there is 50 yards or less. I'm seeing a lot of 20s and teens in rushing. So he relies on that receiving game to get in there. And Bucky Irving also does a really good receiving. So are they going to minimize Bucky Irving's role? Because that's what Kenneth Gainwell does. That's a concern that I have about both Gainwell and Irving. Are they going to eat into each other in a negative way? Kind of like Ramondre and Henderson eat into each other, and you can't trust them week to week. But I think it could be even a heavier brick to rankings for both Bucky and Gainwell, depending on their receiving game, because I don't think they're going to run Gainwell very often, especially after seeing the stats from last year and from previous years. Like, he broke out because he was a receiver. He was a glorified receiver. So now let's go to our next part, experts against experts. This is a part of the show where we each highlight 5 players in our positions of expertise that the consensus disagrees on. We will talk about one of them from each tier. For example, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, and wide receiver 5. I want to talk about Chris Olave. Name twins. Christopher Christopherson Olave. That's his new name.
For Olave.
Topher only fits for certain people. My best friend from college is Chris, and somebody one time called us Topher squared, and we were like,
ooh, that feels weird. And I'm not even involved.
We need the Salem witch trials back. Like this, burn her at the stake. Witch. Yes. So, but we have such a bromance that since his name is Chris and I'm Topher, people say that we complete each other.
Love it. I love that.
It's totally adorable. So back to the Chris at hand, Chris Olave. He's currently ranked as wide receiver 11 according to consensus. He's got a range of 5. His high is 9 and his low ranking is 14. I want to talk about the first half of the season last year. He averaged 11.5 points weeks 1 through 8. That doesn't sound too bad, except he only eclipsed 11.5 points twice within those 8 weeks. The rest of the time, he was under 11.5 points in the first half of the season. Not what you want, not what you're looking for. However, once Tyler Shuck stepped up and was under center, he averaged 15.8 points per week starting in week 9. He was at or above 11.5 points 6 out of the 8 games he played in that span. So 75% of the time, he was eclipsing what his average was for the first half of the season. He was ranked as wide receiver 3 during the second half of the season, overall wide receiver 3. He led the NFL in targeted air yards last year. Now, for the sad part, Jordan Tyson, promising rookie, out for 2 months. Not going to be in the game until October. Now, October could mean week 5. It could mean week 8. And then, is he going to be fully ready to go? He's a rookie. We've seen nothing but brilliant hype about him in camp. One of the closest beat writers to New Orleans said he might be the best player on the team, talking about Jordan Tyson, which is insane. I love that for a rookie. But Chris Olave is going to get ball fed to him no matter what. So this first half of the season, you're really going to see, you could see this wide receiver 3 production come back for Chris Olave. Second half of the season, or whenever Jordan Tyson gets back and is fully loaded, it might take a little step back. But Kellen Moore is their head coach, and he's explosive in the passing game, just like he was in college. Like Boise State, watching that blue field with Kellen Moore. Whew. Talk about memories right there. Chris Olave, well worth your wide receiver 11. I've actually moved him up to wide receiver 6 right now. because that's where he finished last year. He's got the same quarterback. He's only gotten stronger assets around him with Travis Etienne, and once Jordan Tyson is back, Jordan Tyson, and a new head coach that wants to throw the ball. I'm all in on Chris Olave.
Awesome. Let's go. All right. This is a guy that I was high on last year. Started off slow. I think he's going to do well. That's Chase Brown at RB7. The only problem with that is his range is 7. So people have him as high as 4, as low as 11. Now, granted, that's all in tier 1, but that's a huge tier 1 range when most of these guys are right around 2, 3. But like as I alluded to earlier, he started off slow, but week 14 through 18 finished RB10 or better all but just once. And in week 16, he finished first. Week 17, he finished third. I mean, he was going off at the end of the season. The only thing, again, that I feel like might be a common thing this year, second guy I'm already mentioning it, you got to keep an eye on his red zone carries. So Perrine came in and only had 4 less than Brown did last year. So Perrine, he might not be taking over during the game, but in that red zone area where you're going to want the touchdowns for Brown, Perrine was coming in and taking those over. Now, he's also being targeted at least 3 times a game, except for once last year, including 14 against Indiana Bears, week 9. Absolutely went off on them. But he only had 5 rushing touchdowns, or 6 rushing touchdowns, sorry, and 5 receiving touchdowns. Now, he's going to get the passing. He's going to get the rushing yards. The only thing that scares me is he going to be stopped again in the red zone. But I still like taking a chance on Chase Brown. He's still an RB1 in my eyes, and I think it's going to get better this year as long as the Bengals are staying healthy and we're not seeing all these injuries like we have been in the past couple of years.
Oh, absolutely. I think that Chase Brown, weeks 13 through 17 last year was running back 3 overall. So we're both talking about late explosive guys that should be continuing on in that tier 1 right there. I saw something, I couldn't find it while you were talking, but I saw something about how Chase Brown's numbers were so much more elevated when Joe Burrow was throwing him the ball versus somebody else. When Joe Burrow was in the game, Chase Brown is a better fantasy player. Like it wasn't close. It makes a huge difference. So if Burrow and Chase Brown are in, that means Chase Brown can be running back 3 like he was last year. I don't think he gets up to Gibbs and Robinson, but he literally proved last year that he could, near the end of the season when things were clicking, he's up there. He could be somebody that, you draft a Puka and you come back and you get a Chase Brown as your 1-2 punch. Both of them could finish as the top 3 in their position, and that's a steal. That's a steal. I don't want to say my next guy's a steal though. Tetairoa McMillan. He's wide receiver 21. He's got a range of 10. His high is 16. His low is 26. So last week I talked about how rookie wide receivers make big leaps, and I was in on Cardinal Tate, and I was using Tetairoa McMillan as a jumping point for that as well. Last year, he was wide receiver 15, which is awesome. However, he only had 2 games as a top 12 wide receiver. Every other game, he wasn't a wide receiver 1. So even though he finished as wide receiver 15, not giving you the big boom that you want. Just like we talked about, I alluded to earlier with Ashton Genty. Tetairoa McMillan did not feel like a top wide receiver 2 on your team. He didn't. Except as the season went on, he got 5 of his 6 touchdowns came from week 11 and on. However, he only had 5 games with 6 or more receptions, and 7 games he had 65 yards or more. Only 1 game that he played in. Sorry, I'm wording this very weirdly. He had 65 yards on under 6 receptions once. Everything else required him to have 6 or more receptions in order to eclipse 65 yards. Now, here's some good things that you could look at, because I wouldn't say these are the things that I've been talking about are glowing stars so far. The Akata, top 10 draft picks who pose similar rookie numbers to Tedero McMillan were Amari Cooper, AJ Green, and Julio Jones. That could be a pathway. It could be a mold for him. It could be where he's headed. Maybe not. And I think a big reason for that is, according to Scott Barrett on Twitter, QB play is obviously the biggest concern. I don't have to cite a Twitter source for that, but I do need to for this. Bryce Young only cleared 207 passing yards in 3 games last season. 207 yards. Last season, Tyler Shuck's last 4 games eclipsed 250 yards. His last 4 games were 250 yards each. Bryce Young couldn't pass over 207 yards more than 3 times the entire season. However, in those 3 games, Tedero McMillan averaged 105 yards. So, if Bryce Young is throwing over 207 yards, Tedero McMillan is getting 100 yards of that. Seems like a reach, but it's not. It's a very small sample size, though. Just like Bryce Young, very small. Preseason game this past week, he played over 50% of his snaps in the slot during the entire season. During the entire season last year, it was only at 16%. So he could be crossing over the middle of the field more. That could help him out. Now, like I talked about earlier, I don't know if I want to put him any higher than wide receiver 21 because of who's around him. I'm going to draft Lad McConkey over him. I'm going to draft T. Higgins over him. I'm going to draft Emeka. You've got me messing it up now. Emeka Egbuka over him. Like, these are guys that I'm just going to go, boom. I would much rather have these guys over Tedero McMillan. I think he's a safe wide receiver 2, low wide receiver 2. I don't see him having that ceiling, though, because of his quarterback play. Unfortunately, if the quarterback play was, if the quarterback play was much better, I'd say the ceiling's there because he's a really good player. But 207 yards.
Yeah, I don't miss that. I mean, Justin Fields we were lucky to get something like that from him too, and I don't miss that, man. I loved Fields, but man, it's a night and day when you have a quarterback like that, and then Caleb Williams. It's amazing. It's so good.
Yes.
But my next guy in the RB2 tier is a guy that we briefly mentioned already. That's Bucky Irving. He's RB21. He's got a range of 5, which is actually sounds pretty small, but an RB2 tier to start, everyone's right around 3-4. So 5 is kind of a big range right now in the RB2 tier, and his high is 19, his low is 24. Now, I mentioned he had shoulder surgery this offseason. He also missed time last season, missed weeks 5 through 12. But he was RB15 or better in the 6 games he did play. And the one thing that really hurt him was not having any rush. Well, he had 8 rushing touchdowns, but not really having many rushing touchdowns. Now, when his points were coming also from a lot of his catches. And the first 4 weeks before he got hurt, 21 receptions, had a game with 50 receiving yards, had a game with 102. 2 of his 3 receiving touchdowns of the year came during that stretch. But we did mention that Gainwell signed this offseason. That's what his job pretty much is. He's a catching running back. He had 85 targets last season. The thing that's what scares me is Bucky going to lose a lot of those catches or a lot of those targets to Gainwell? And if that's the case, Bucky at 21 is a little scary, but Also, he has a high upside if he stays healthy, and that's the thing. Is he going to stay healthy between the injury last year, surgery on his shoulder now? He was in a boot, I think, towards the fantasy playoffs last year. Short career so far, but injuries are coming.
Yeah. I mean, here's something though, depending on where you can get Bucky. I really like him. So I'm looking on Twitter right now. At Guru Fantasy World without the O in world. I can't say his last name, David J. Gautieri. I follow him all the time. Love his work. He was saying Bucky Irving was RB19 as a rookie and was RB8 through the first 4 weeks before getting injured last year. Now he's barely priced in the top 24. Like if he's healthy, he's going to outproduce running back 21. I've got him at running back 17 right now. But he could still outdo that. So I think that there's a healthy low running back 1 ceiling for him. There's also a not a healthy floor, which is the bigger concern. So wide receiver 3 tier. I want to talk to you about Denver Broncos, Courtland Sutton. He's currently wide receiver 36. He's got a range of 10. His high is 31. His low is 41. He finished as wide receiver 10 last year, and he was a top 12 wide receiver. He's been a top 12 wide receiver the past 2 seasons. Quietest top 12 wide receiver, I think, ever. Probably not, but in recent history, you are not going, oh, yeah, wide receiver 1, Courtland Sutton. No one's doing that. Not at all. Now, JJ Zacharyson, somebody that I love and you should listen to after our elite advice, because clearly this is all we do with our lives. He's talks about Courtland Sutton all the time being the most white bread, boring vanilla pick out there, and that he doesn't want anything to do with them. He's been talking about being a best ball bro, and like he's avoiding him in his 150 drafts that he's doing for the Millie Maker contest. And I've gotten him sometimes in best ball where I've got Bo Nix and I need the stack. But otherwise, does his claim make sense? Well, let's take a look at this. Between weeks 4 and 14 last year, he averaged 10 points per game. It's pretty much, if you look at it, it's just a little bit of movement. It's all very steady. It's not like, oh, he had a boom game here and a boom game there. That's what the outsides of the season look like. But otherwise, it's a pretty flat line right there. He only had 2 100-yard games despite finishing as a top 12 wide receiver. For context, let's talk about who else had 2 100-yard rushing games. Ryan Flournoy and Alec Pierce both had 2 100-yard receiving games. Wan'Dale Robinson, Parker Washington, and Michael Wilson had 3. Stephon Diggs had 5 100-yard receiving games last year. Puka had 8. JSN had 10. So now you're going to tell me that you are still obviously hearing all this and being like, oh my gosh, Courtland Sutton was a wide receiver 1 the past 2 seasons, and he's wide receiver 36 now. He's not blowing the top off the things of any week. 2 100-yard games as a wide receiver 1. That doesn't tell you a whole. That tells you that he's vanilla. He's boring. He's right in the middle. Yes, he can produce, but he's been doing that as the alpha, as the top dog. Let's now add Jalen Waddle, the far superior receiver to him, into the mix. Jalen Waddle is going to take up from Courtland Sutton. They're also having Pat Bryant take over that slot role more. And they've taken Troy Franklin back a little bit. So those top 3 are kind of defined. And then you also have three-headed running back room that we don't know what's going to happen there. I'm not in on Cortland Sutton. He might be, I can't believe I'm saying this, might be the most boring pick in fantasy football. If you want it feels like Khalil Shakir has been for the past few years, where you just go, I want somebody he's the definition of steady and safe. If you want steady and safe, if you want to make sure that you're getting a few points no matter what is happening each week, Cortland Sutton. If you want somebody that is going to elevate your team, don't go for Cortland Sutton. That's my thought.
Yeah, I mean, sounds like you got a good bench guy there if you need to plug someone in, but
he's there's no league that you're in that wide receiver 36 is going to be your bench. There's no league that I know of that you aren't starting at least 4 wide receivers because of flex play. Even if you only have 2 starting wide receivers, most 2 wide receiver leagues have at least 2 flex plays. Cortland Sutton is maybe going to help you rather than your boom or bust kind of player. But your boom or bust kind of player can help you win championships, and I don't think Cortland Sutton can.
Fair, very fair. My RB3 tier guy, I got Chuba Hubbard, RB33, range 10, high 30, low 40. Now, this guy had a great 2024. He finished RB10 or better 7 times, top 5 in 3 of those. It's not the same guy last year. That is not the guy we saw last year. He actually finished RB50 or worse 7 times last year. He was on the struggle bus, 1 rushing touchdown, 3 receiving touchdowns, dealing with a hamstring injury right now. He lost his job to Rico Dowdle last year. He's risking losing it again to your guy that you mentioned last year that you're excited for, or last week, Jonathan Brooks. I mean, I know he's at RB3 and you're looking at somebody to use there, but I would avoid him. I honestly don't know if, man, I don't trust him, to be honest. There's nothing showing from last year that's showing that he's going to be that guy. And especially if he's not starting right off the bat, I mean, Jonathan Brooks is going to take that team over on him, just like Rico Dowdle did last year.
I feel like Chuba Hubbard is kind of like a Cortland Sutton, just a little worse. He's not as reliable as Cortland Sutton, but he's a boring play. You don't get excited about Chuba being there. With him being running back 33, you might be like, okay, that's a bench player. That could be a bench player right there that you can plug and play, but at RB 33, I'm not excited about him. I'd rather go after a Bill Clinton, Krosky Merritt, or a Blake Corum or Rashad White in those same areas, because I know that those ceilings could explode, or there's more consistency with Blake Corum. I don't see it there. I think you're absolutely right. I want to talk about one of my favorite players that no one talks about, and that is wide receiver 4 tier Jaden Reed of the Green Bay Packers. He's wide receiver 43. His range is 15. People are all over the board with him. His high is 34. His low is 49. Literally wide receiver 3 to wide receiver 5 difference right there. His 2025 season was injury riddled, stalled the momentum that he gained from his first 2 seasons, where he finished as wide receiver 26 and wide receiver 23 as a rookie. So he has been a top 30 wide receiver when healthy. Proven. So nobody's talking about that. People's biggest concern with him is that he's not on the field in 2 wide receiver formations. However, that's not any different than his first 2 seasons where he excelled. Romeo Doubs was in there with Christian Watson instead of him. And sometimes Dontavian Wicks. Jaden Reed hasn't been that guy. Matthew Golden will now be that other guy in that 2 wide receiver formations. However, what if Packers are doing some more 3 wide receiver personnel? They showed last year that Luke Musgrave isn't all that with Tucker Kraft going down. Once Tucker Kraft, who should be playing week 1, is really getting back at it, they could really go with those 3 wide receivers, Tucker Kraft and Josh Jacobs, on the field, and that's their best offensive lineup. Now, this is something that you need to know. He will have dud weeks because he's not on the field as much as other players. He will have dud weeks, but getting to overall low wide receiver 2, high wide receiver 3, and selecting him literally 15 spots below that, that's a steal. Now, this was interesting. According to Jacob Gibbs, who writes and works for CBS and did a fantasy show literally just like a week ago about this, Jaden Reed is wide receiver 1 overall in fantasy points per target since entering the NFL. In games he has seen at least 6 targets, his PPR average is 17.5 points per game. So 6 targets. We were talking earlier about how Tedero McMillan had to have 6, was it targets or receptions? 6 receptions, essentially to eclipse 65 yards. Jaden Reed, if he gets 6 targets, his average, his PPR, full PPR average is 17.5, which is the best since he was drafted. Bonkers. Absolutely insane. He also gets Debo-esque manufactured touches. You also need to remember that he just got a 3-year contract with the Green Bay Packers. They want him there. They let Romeo Doubs go. They traded Dontavian Wicks. They kept Jaden Reed. He's also a wide receiver that was drafted in the 2nd round by the Green Bay Packers. Over the past 20 years, let me throw out some names that were also drafted in the 2nd round by the Green Bay Packers. Greg Jennings, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams, and Christian Watson. Those are some pretty nice names to put yourself in with. His ceiling is kind of capped, I think, at that Tedero McMillan wide receiver 20 kind of spot. But he could easily, I think he's got a lower ceiling, but he's got a high floor. I think that he is very undervalued at wide receiver 43.
Man, not actual football wise, but fantasy football wise, I miss Jordy Nelson.
Right?
Actual games, don't want to see him again. Fantasy football wise, amazing. Man, he was so good.
He was. Oh man. Yeah. I couldn't believe some of the stuff I was reading about Jaden Reed, though. Holy cow.
Yeah, it's a good group of guys to be talked about in.
Yeah. Frank, shut up. That's my dog.
All right, so my RB4 tier, we start getting into the weeds of it. This is a guy that I liked last year and just couldn't do it. Tyrone Tracy Jr., RB4 tier. He's at RB47. He's got a range of 15, so this is another guy that is just all over the place. High of 41, low of 56. From week 10 on, he was doing pretty well. Top 15 running back in points per game. Week 15, he was running back 5. Week 18, running back 2. Like, he showed that he can really put it out there when he really had the opportunity. But the thing is that he didn't really do a whole lot until week 11 when he faced Green Bay and he was RB13. Before that, it was kind of non-existent. Hurt. Cam was taking over a lot of the touches, rightfully so, before he got hurt. But to make it worse, Giants literally just signed Najee Harris in the past couple days. Like, that he's going to lose snaps to Najee. I don't think he stays at the RB2 on the depth chart like he currently is. And he kind of gave up a huge block in this last preseason game, sent Dart to the medical tent. they kind of alluded to him possibly losing his job even as a blocker in a press conference the other day. As much as I thought Tyrone Tracy was going to do something last year, and he had the flashes, didn't do it consistently, but this year is not looking good for him. I mean, Cam comes back, as long as he's not doing backflips, he's gonna be amazing there. And then Najee Harris is probably gonna slowly take over that RB2 over Singletary and over Tyrone Tracy, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I think with the whole Najee Harris signing, I'm very concerned about Tyrone Tracy. I kind of was liking him in some best ball, like he's did some production last year, and I don't think he's good enough to outsnap the name of Najee Harris. Does that make sense?
Fair, yeah.
Najee might not be better than him, but he certainly has a better name than him.
Yeah, I mean,
I really like Tyrone.
Oh,
it's a cool name. Tyrone's a really cool name.
But yeah, and Najee, I mean, he's used to being a part of a two-headed monster. He did it at Pittsburgh. I mean, I don't think he's going to do that here in New York, but I mean, he's used to being that too, and he makes a fine RB2 on a team, but Tyrone Tracy's his days are limited, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're right. He showed as a rookie, and he showed last year, and then the Giants were like, we'll add some prettier name. I think also it's kind of a little, they're not sure how Cam Scatterboo's going to always hold up. So it could be partially that as well. Like, we know he won't last every season because of the way that he plays. So we need to have another running back there that can fill in that gap, because besides Tyrone Tracy last year, they didn't have squat.
Right.
So that might be part of the move as well. And we might be overthinking about Tyrone, that Najee's there as running back 3. But I don't think you sign a name like Najee with that in mind. But I'm also a teacher living in small town Kansas, and I don't know what they're all thinking. So wide receiver 5 tier. I want to talk to you about Rashid Shaheed of the Seattle Seahawks, wide receiver 58. He's got a range of 13. His highest ranking is 51. His lowest is 64. Now, he's got a weird story because he was traded at the trade deadline, and he was not involved nearly as much in Seattle as he was in New Orleans. In New Orleans, he was showing some wide receiver 2 promise the season before, played 6 games and then got injured for the rest of the season. He was showing some good things on a struggling Saints offense. He wasn't shining the way he was the year before, but nor was the Saints offense. And then he gets traded, and he gets delegated a little bit more into a returning role, but they don't really have a wide receiver 2 on that team besides him. They have a Torrey Horton who struggled with injuries, and a decrepit, old, decaying Cooper Kupp. And I can say that because I'm 1 year older than Cooper Kupp, and I'm old, decrepit, and decaying as we speak.
Crypt keeper.
I am. Skin is falling off as we speak. I'm just popping off. Off-season beat writers and coaches all suggest that he will play a bigger role than just the field stretcher, as he has been, and he was last year. He was kind of a decoy more than anything. He's shown flashes of fantasy relevance for now multiple seasons. Seattle traded 2 picks for him for a reason during his 4th season, meaning that rookie contract's running out. They have to re-sign him. They have to make sure that he's still a part of the team. Will he be consistently used enough in Seattle? That's a concern. The talent's there. What about the usage?
Lights are flickering, apparently.
Yeah.
Sorry. So
you're all good.
My RB5 tier guy, this is where it starts really getting. Now we're looking at maybe some guys third on the depth chart. But my next guy is a little interesting. He just signed to the Chargers. That's Keaton Mitchell. He's RB50. He's got a huge range. That's 17, and his high is 41. His low is 58. Now, he basically got brought in to be the competition for Kamani Vidal's RB2. And Vidal's listed as RB61 with a high of 56, a low of 75. So already off the bat, the consensus is that Keaton Mitchell is probably going to get more touches than Vidal is. And as I was going through Twitter, just trying to see anything from his practice that could be going on, it's kind of what it looks like, is that Keaton Mitchell is getting more first team reps than Vidal has been. In fact, during the last preseason game, he was sat down with the starters. So he got starters rest. Now, as far as fantasy goes, really, he's kind of a boomer bust guy. Like, he really can be electric. Like, he has a 10.2 explosive run rate last year, 14.9% over the last few years. But this is a guy that big plays are nothing. So I'm not fully expecting him to be this amazing RB2 guy on the Chargers, but Hampton, if he can't stay healthy, which again seemed like an issue for just about everyone last year, he can come in and plug in to get some big plays at RB1, but I don't anticipate him having too many big plays. He's really a boom or bust kind of guy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know about him. I don't, because he was behind Derrick Henry, but if he was really as explosive as he is kind of touted and some people are screaming from the rooftops about, wouldn't they have designed some things for him? Wouldn't they have done something like, because they have some speedy players, Zay Flowers, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. Why not throw him as an explosive player, especially with the lack of a wide receiver too? Why not make him a part of that? You know, his first game, he had 138 yards and a touchdown, and he's had some explosive games and plays from there. But that's not happening. That's you're hoping, you're dreaming, you remember that first game he ever played. That's what people are holding on to. So, but why just running back 50? If he comes up as my running back 5, I'm not happy, but I'm not mad. You know what I mean?
Fair, yeah.
Yeah. He's not who I'm reaching for, but I'll take him. So, okay. Good. Michael, where can people find you?
Well, find me Twitter and Blue Sky, whatever Blue Sky's called. I think it's Blue Sky, I don't know, but at MP4s90. You can find me. Just search that anywhere, I'll be there.
Boom. And that includes WikiFeet. And
you got to pay though. It's paywall.
Beautiful. And you can find me at TopherK44 at the Twitters and the Blue Skies. Michael, always great doing a show with you, friend. Think we did very well today. And if we didn't, make sure you keep that to yourself as a listener. We only want positive feedback. We don't want any criticism.
I cry.
Yeah. And I don't have feelings. So I'm very emotionally devoid. So, so if you say it, just water off a duck's back, it's not going to affect me. I say that as I have a bottle of wine underneath my desk here, just in case if I need to cry and hide under something. Yeah. So
in case of tears.
Exactly. Breaking case of tears. Exactly. Okay. Thank you so much for being with us, listening. Have a wonderful night, and we will see you next week. Deuces.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you watch or listen to podcasts. We'll be back next week for more ways to win your league.